Yo, let's go and welcome to the video. With phase 3 potentially being almost a month away, I thought I'd go ahead and get a couple of sets ready that I might be interested in getting for my best in slot. So I have one set with tier 6 pieces to get the 4-piece set bonus. Then I also made a haste set. So I tried to look for some information on how haste is gonna help us out. I couldn't really find anything. So if you know of a place that says, how much haste you need to get an extra tick on Moonfire or anything useful like that, you could let me know in the comments. But since I'm not sure about haste, this set right here might be the one that I end up going after. So I'll talk about this one first. And right off the bat, not all pieces will be available of the set until Sunwell. The belts, boots, and bracers, we have to wait until Sunwell comes out. So I ended up getting vest, gloves, helm, and shoulders, and have leggings of channeled elements for the legs. Now, although having the 4-piece set bonus from tier 5 is really fun, does a lot of extra damage on Starfire, it's going to be hard to tell, exactly which one is better, which 4-piece set's better. Come Sunwell, we might be wanting to have 4-piece of each set, so that we can have all the bonuses. But I think not having to put Moonfire up as often and that 5% crit on Starfire might outweigh it, so I'll probably go for this set once I get the 4-piece. Kind of like how I waited until I had the 4 set in tier 5 to equip them. One big thing with this tier is there's a lot of hit now on a lot of pieces, so it's pretty easy to get hit capped. So that made me pick some pieces over others. For instance, the Cowl of Illidari High Lord, great piece, a lot of crit, which is really enticing, but overall with the whole set together, that would give me an extra 8 hit, which I'm already over capped. So I took that into account, as well as the Spirit. I really like Spirit and how it helps mana regen, and if we ever did get an improved Divine Spirit Priest, then it would just be 3 more spell power right there just on the helm. So this was a tough slot to pick which one, but I went with the tier helm. Again, with the hit, the translucent spell thread might show more balance points, but a couple things: it doesn't have stam or int. I really like having intellect. Stamina is always a plus. The same amount of crit, and with our talent, that intellect gives us 4 spell power, so almost identical spell power as well. So it's just having that extra int, which gives a little crit, extra stamina, since we don't really need that hit. In order to get that 4-piece shoulders, there isn't anything too close. Spell pen we don't really need. The Hateful Mantle does have a lot of crit compared to the tier, and 9 more spell power, but really intellect wise you got to take into account tier has 13 more intellect, which is 3 more spell powers, are up to 49 spell power now, and we'll be getting the socket bonus, so another 4 overall kind of evens that out. And again, a little bit more spirit here. When we get to it, the legs is just a bigger upgrade to choose the non-tier piece for the leg slot. Cloak wise, standard spell power, crit, int, stam. We've got a haste option as well, which will be in the haste set. If I ever get the Vestments of the Sea Witch, then this is just a minor little upgrade from that. But Vestments has a lot more hit, which we won't be needing. With the intellect difference, it might be about the same amount of crit overall, but extra spell power, spirit, int, stamina, all the good stuff. So I chose not to go for the 5 spell damage bonus, instead just eventually stacking 12 spell power gems. But until I get all of those gems, I might go for the bonus. So if I'm just using the rare gems, having that set bonus might be worth it. But once your guild has a lot of the epic gems, then getting the 12 spell power I think is better. So starting off with the cuffs, there's a couple with hit on them we don't need, so we'll skip down to the cuffs of devastation. All the good stats again: crit, spell power, spirit, int, and with a stamina socket bonus, don't really need that, so just a raw spell power in there. So I compared the staff here with a main hand offhand, the Hammer of Judgment, but again, as you can see, it's got hit on it. Even the new offhand has hit. So this set ends up getting just this 55 haste from the weapon, but the spell power is just too much to pass up. So it's a 23 spell power difference just looking at them from just the main hand and the 2-hand, but the intellect difference adds a little bit more spell power to the staff. And with 36 crit and the haste, there's just not an offhand that could go with the mace to bring it up to where it would be a even equal comparison. So the gloves, we finally get a decent pair of gloves that aren't crafted or from Doomwalker, which has no int or stam. So tier gloves here, we get a little bit of our hit from our gloves. Belt of blasting I'll be hanging on to. So the noose is a really good looking option as well. It might pick that up in the meantime if I'm okay on hit and stuff. Just depends. Not a bad belt here though. Now leggings of channeled elements has a little bit less hit than the tier, which helps. I think the main thing was just the crit difference that I looked at. They both have spirit, which is nice. Less intellect here on the legs, just that little bit of less hit on the legs, which is made up by the crit. And then this has 3 sockets instead of just the 1 socket, which I stacked 3 raw spell powered gems in there. So just comparing them, the tier does have more spell damage until you add all those sockets in. And same thing with this one, with the chest. I might put some crit spell power gems in the yellow, spell power stam in the blue until I get all of those 12 spell power gems ready for it. Another piece where it's an easy kind of choice, it's crit spell power, a couple of sockets. Nature Wardens is also a really good piece, really comparable pieces here, but I chose the piece with the spirit on it instead of the mana per 5. And the slippers have just that slight 3 crit strike rating points more. So I chose the slippers, but if Nature's Wardens drops or something, I might pick those up if no other casters are wanting those until I have a chance at the slippers. Blue suede shoes has hit. Not interested in those. Now the rings are kind of interesting. We've got one with an equip bonus. Band of Eternal Sage is the rep ring. So once you max out your rep, your offensive spells have a chance on hit to increase your spell damage by 95 for 10 seconds. And then the Captured Storms ring, the crit and damage difference from, let's say, the Band of Eternity. I mean, with the intellect loss, though, it made it pretty tough, but that hit is basically the only thing that we're getting out of it. But 19 hit from it. It's going to hurt to lose the intellect, but overall it just kind of fit to make my hit cap where it is. The trinkets, we have a couple options. I have the sextant here because in form here we're getting 31% without any buffs, and then with the 4-piece bonus adding 5% to Starfire, we've got 4% from focused Starlight. So we're looking at 40% crit on Starfire before we get any of our raid buffs or consumes up. Then a new trinket, which seems like it would benefit more in the haste set, but still looks pretty interesting, is Starfire has a 25% chance to grant up to 150 spell power for 8 seconds. So I just think it would be really cool if like the ring was up, the sextant was up, and the talisman was up. I don't know if these two somehow share an internal cooldown with each other. I don't think so, but having all of those up at the same time could be really cool. Or, I might just keep like an unused trinket instead. So overall with this set, we've got 1271 arcane damage, over hit cap a little bit. So what I did was I took a point out of balance of power and threw it over into subtlety. That's what I'm working with right now. Currently too, I've just got upgrades that I have more hit on them than I need, so I'm threat capped on a couple fights, so I took a point out of balance of power already, threw it into subtlety. And we might be able to also take points out of like intensity and move them over, or dream state and move them over there with all of this extra spirit and stuff that we're getting. So I'll have 12% from my gear and talents, and then 4% from the elemental shaman in my group. So I'll be 0.3% over hit cap. Spirit, we're up to 300 spirit on buff. Now over to the haste set, there wasn't really more than one option for a lot of the pieces that did have haste. I ended up getting the translucent neck for this set, but no haste on the helm or shoulders, but we get down to the cloak. A couple of these pieces are healing pieces, so we might not be prioed at all on any of these healing pieces. Of course, if our healers are interested, I don't know if priest, druid, paladins, who's going to be wanting that haste. Are these pieces going to be best in slot for them too? But we've got some haste here on a cloak, nothing on the chest. We've got a pair of haste bracers that are crafted, but it's damage and healing this time instead of healing and damage. That haste on our staff still. Botanist gloves is another healing piece, but 37 haste, quite a lot. We got a haste belt from high jaw, no haste on the legs, no haste on any boots. Now this ring isn't showing that it's unique, so I guess it's just a zone drop in BT, potentially able to stack 2 of these. Then we have an interesting trinket here. It's got hit, spell power, and then an on use of spell haste by 175 for 20 seconds, which I think I looked, it's a 2-minute cooldown. Then since we're pumping out more Starfires, this trinket would have a little bit extra chance to proc since we're pumping out more of them. So I think I would pair these 2 trinkets together. Only a little bit less arcane damage. The big thing is the crit. We're down to 22 crit in Moonkin form instead of 31, but we're up to almost 16% haste. A little bit less spirit, but I think it's something like 600 extra mana over here. So the question's going to be, is that extra spell haste going to make up for the loss in crit? So let me know in the comments, are you planning on using this new set of tier, or are you going to stick with the tier 5 for the 10% bonus to Starfire? While Moonfire's up, you're going to go for the haste set, like a spell power set, and I'll see you in the next one.